So how'd everybody do with multiplying fractions? Hopefully they went pretty well. Again, if you get stuck, don't hesitate to ask. I'll be around the computer all day today, so don't feel like you're bothering me. I love to answer questions, so just let me know what's going on. So with dividing fractions, so we're going to start off kind of with a word problem here. So let's do number 20. So four campers need to share 5 liters of water equally. How many liters of water does each camper get? So how many liters are there? So in this case, there's 5. And so what we're going to do is represent each liter kind of with a rectangle. So ultimately they should be similar shape, but if they're not, it's okay. So each of these rectangles is going to represent 1 liter of water. And in this case, how many campers are there? There are 4. So as a division problem, we're taking 5 liters and we're trying to divide them amongst 4 people. So we're looking at 5 divided by 4. So what we want to do is, since we've got 4 people involved, we want to divide each of these liters into chunks of 4. So in this case, again, we're going to need 3 lines. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. And the way you want to think about this is each person is going to get their own color in this case. So there's 4 people. So in this case, whoever was orange is going to get all of those shapes. Whoever is, let's say, blue is going to get, this is going to be their share of water. Whoever is green, this is going to be their share of water. And then finally, who's ever pink, this is going to be their share of water. So what we want to do is how many liters does each camper get? So we're only caring about the single colors in this case. So they'll all be the same because we divided them up evenly. So it doesn't matter which color you look at. But if we notice, just say we look at orange. So we've got 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. Oh, so I've got these in fourths. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4. So we've got 5/4 that each camper gets, or as a mixed number, this would look like 1 1/4 liters of water is what each person would get. All right, so I'm going to let you guys try 21 and 22. So pause the video at this point. It's very similar to number 20. So look at those guys real quick, and then when you're done, come back to the video and we'll look at number 23. All right, so looking at number 23, so again, we're using a number line in this case. And so we're dividing a unit fraction, so 1/3, by a non-zero whole number, namely 2. So first thing it tells us to do is put 1/3 on a properly marked and labeled number line. So in this case, so the only thing we're kind of drawing is 1/3, so I'm going to give myself a lot of room here just because I can. So I'm going to put 0 out here, 1 out here. So 1/3 would take this interval between 0 and 1 and break it up into 3 chunks. So I would need 2 lines. So that means 1/3 would be there. So now what I want to do, since I'm dividing by 2, I want to split this interval between 0 and 1/3 in half. So if I do that, if I think about doing the whole way up with this, then notice what I end up with is I've broken this up into chunks of 6s. So instead of thinking of this as 1/3, let's think of this as 2/6. So this first chunk that we have would actually be a 1/6. So what we would do is kind of divide the number line up even more. So how much is 1 piece? 1 piece would just be 1/6 in that case. All right. Is that okay with everybody? All right, perfect. So let's look at 24. So 1/2 divided by 4. So again, what we want to do first is show what 1/2 would look like using a rectangle. So in this case, we want to divide our rectangle into two pieces. So we're going to need one line. So half of that would just be shading one side. But now what we want to do is divide this half up into four equal pieces. So now I want to divide these into four, each smaller piece into four chunks. So that means I need three lines. And I'm just going to do all of them on both sides, even though it doesn't matter. And so how many chunks do I have total? So I have 8 chunks, which tells me my fraction. In this case, each of those chunks represents a 1/8 piece. So in this case, I've got 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. And so how much is one piece? So since we're dividing this up into fourths, we're only interested in choosing one of those pieces. So in this case, one piece is just going to be 1/8 in that case. So does that make sense? All right, so I'll leave 25 for you guys to do. So again, pause this, look at 25, and then we'll come back here in a second and do kind of the opposite, dividing a whole number by a unit fraction, again using rectangles and number line. So pause the video. When you're done, come on back. Okay, so now dividing a whole number by a unit fraction. So we started off the same way, but instead of graphing the fraction first, we're going to graph the number 3. So in this case, I've got 0, 1, 2, and 3. And so now what we want to do is divide each of these whole numbers into thirds. So we want to break each one of these up into chunks of 3 so we can get into the right fraction. So that means I need 2 lines here, 2 lines there, 2 lines there. And so what I've got is a bunch of 1/3 blocks. And so what we're looking for is how many 1/3 blocks will actually fit between 0 and 3 on our number line. So if we look, I've got a 1/3 block here, 1/3 block here, 1/3 block. And I can just keep doing this over and over until I get to 3. And so now I just want to add them up. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've got 9 1/3 blocks fit in there. So I'm not using the fraction anymore. The fraction is just letting me know what the number of blocks are. So my answer in this case is actually just 9. So it takes 9 1/3 blocks to squeeze in between 0 and 3. All right. Is that okay with everybody? All right, perfect. All right, so again, let's do the same kind of thing, but with the rectangle model or area type model. So in this case, the two rectangles are going to represent the 2 holes. So again, just like we did with the number line, we want to break this up into a bunch of 1/3 chunks. So again, that means we're going to need 2 lines. And so again, what it's looking for is how many 1/3 pieces will it take to fill up these 2 rectangles. So in this case, I've got a 1/3 block, a 1/3 block, 1/3 block, 1/3 block, 1/3 block. So again, we're not actually worried about the fraction part. We just want to know how many 1/3 blocks there are. So I can see I've got 1, 2, 3 in the first, and then 4, 5, and 6 in the other. So it takes 6 1/3 blocks and able to fill up those 2 rectangles. So in this case, 2 divided by 1/3 would be the same thing as 6. All right. So you guys work on 28. I'll leave that one for you guys to do. And then from there, we've got a bunch of word problems. So again, I'm going to leave those for you guys to do as well. So up to 31. So let's come back after you've practiced those guys. Come back to the video, and then we'll finish up here with 32. All right, so 32, what we're trying to do is now we're dividing a fraction by a fraction. So remember, up to this point, we've always been dividing a whole number by a fraction or a fraction by a whole number. So now we want to do similar things, but with fractions and fractions. So the first thing we want to do, again, number line model. So 1/2 divided by 1/6. So again, just like we did before, we want to put 1/2 on the number line. So in this case, I'm going to go 0 to 1, and then halfway in the middle would be my 1/2. And so now, since we're dividing by 1/6, I want to divide the number line between 0 and 1 into 6 chunks. So I need 5 lines. So in this case, I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I didn't have to do 1/2 to 1, but I figure I might as well. And so if we count how many tick marks we have from 0 up to 1, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've got 12 tick marks, which means that each one of the tick marks represents a 1/12. So keep that in mind. That's going to come in handy. So in this case, we want to know how many 1/6 pieces are there in 1/2. So remember, each one of these guys is going to represent a sixth. So in this case, we've got, let's see what we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this case. So we've got 6, oops. Oh, hold on, my bad. I actually divided this up into 12, so ignore everything I've done there. Let me start over. I was doing dividing by 12. Sorry, my bad. So let me start over. So I've got 0, I've got 1, I've got 1/2 in the middle. So I want to break 0 to 1. I broke 0 into 1/2 into 6, not 0 into 1. That was where I went wrong. So in this case, I want to break 0 and 1 into 6. So if we remember, this is the same as 3/6. So we've already got kind of 2 of the chunks that we need. So what we need is we need 4 more chunks. So I need a total of 5 lines altogether. So I need 2 on this side. I've already got 1 there and 2 on this side. Now we go. Now we're on the right track again. So how many 1/6 pieces are there in 12? So I've got a 1/6 chunk there, a 1/6 chunk there, and a 1/6 chunk there. So I've got 3 1/6 chunks total. So 1/6 or 1/2 divided by 1/6 would give me 3 in that case. All right, sorry to mess you guys up. So now let's do the rectangle model. So 2/3 divided by 1/6. So again, we want to divide this rectangle into thirds first, then shade 2 pieces. So in this case, since we want 3 chunks, we need 2 lines. And then we're going to shade 2 of these. And so now what we want to do is redivide this so that it's in terms of 6. So that means we need to break this up, kind of each one of these in half. So now we've got 6 chunks. And then again, how many 1/6 chunks are in there? So we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 1/6 chunks that are living inside of our rectangle. So in this case, 2/3 divided by 1/6 would just give us 4. All right. So the rest of these I'm going to have you guys work on your own. So we've kind of went through all the modeling type. The rest of them, are just more of the same, lots of practice and things like that. If you do get stuck or if there's any you're having problems on, definitely let me know. Again, I can make another quick video to help walk you through stuff, or I can just try to walk you through it by hand. Good luck tomorrow. If you have any questions, let me know.